Alright, who wants to talk about what happened? The incident.
Well, I think I'm probably the most responsible, so I'll talk about it.
20 words or less, go.
You're right, Mr. Angier. There's no way I'd be able to do that. So
The recording fucked up. We're doing it again. Begin.
Yeah, but we're not doing it again properly.
yeah, because we were talking about it. We were doing 2009 for how long?
We did-
3 hours. And what?
Well, we did our classic hour and a half. You know, a lot of
Yeah,
chat. The pod we could do it in about 10 minutes, which is what we're going to do now.
Yeah,
but
this is the revised notes. This
Yeah.
is the.
This is the speed mode.
yeah,
the
this
speed run
is the
of
cliff
2009.
notes of that podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, episode 2009. Honourable mention. Tony picked Minecraft.
I picked Minecraft, but I'll change it to Rogue Warrior.
Thank you.
Okay, I picked Uncharted 2. Johnny picked Borderlands. Ethan picked Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Great
Johnny's
Christmas
TV
film.
roundup was Full Metal Alchemist. 2 minutes, go.
Brotherhood.
Brotherhood.
It's one of the best anime things. It's a fantasy world.
Okay.
Very
Me
good
and
English.
Tony rate it.
Very good English dub.
Yes, good.
Good action show with magic.
IMDb
The end.
it. Right. Game, Red Faction Guerrilla. Johnny, talk about why you picked Red Faction Guerrilla and your thoughts. Go.
I like it. It's
Don't
like
put it on the
from my
spot,
childhood.
Let's just do it. Let's just do every
Hot seat.
podcast like this.
Hot seat, keep going. Don't lose momentum.
Yeah, it's it's from my childhood. I
all
love
control.
it. You know, the game developed. Well, it should be more this game because it's got a fairly nice idea behind it, but just not the execution needed. It's got one of the few like destructive engines, which just hasn't really been done since, which is quite surprising with all the time. And I just really like it.
Ethan, Red Faction Guerrilla, what do you think about it?
Well, there are a few things I like, a few things I don't like. All in all, I hate the storyline. I think it's my favourite thing about it. There are many things I really, really dislike. I think the thing I hate the most about it is the fact that, and I mentioned this before as well.
I mentioned it a lot before.
We mentioned it a lot before, yeah. All of the negative not negative aspects of the game, but negative aspects of the world that they live in are associated with just one group of people, and all the positive aspects of it are associated with the Red Faction. And there's not a lot of external forces acting on it that make it more of a detailed world. And also the world building, I wasn't a big fan of as well. I think it was literally just, this sector will be snowy, and that sector will have these group of people who look like they're out of Mad Max or something, and then that will be the gimmick. And I don't think it was as developed as it could have been.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, what it really needs is a sequel, like on Earth, where it actually explores all these things.
Yeah. And less cutscenes that are just from the EDF's perspective for some
Right,
reason.
we'll get on the memes in a minute. Tony, what did you think?
I think the destruction that is the center of this game is incredibly satisfying. It provides this, except when it runs at 2 frames a second, but most of the time it's this incredible toy to play with of just seeing how you can destroy a building by blowing up supports, walls, etc. with your sledgehammer or the other abilities the game has to offer. It really comes into its own as you unlock more abilities as the game progresses. However, due to several details in this game's presentation, in its mission structure, in its A button when you press on the menu, there are multiple flaws in this game that overall put a speed bump in this game's experience that I feel that really make it less than what it could have been. Things like the fact that missions can be ended because you're in a car and you try to go to the mission objective, you trigger the mission objective flag, but you're driving too fast and you go past the mission objective zone and you have too much momentum, you can't turn around in the timer that you've got, and so your mission ends and you have to drive all the way from fucking Eos to Dust again. It takes 800 years and the game thinks driving is way better than it is, but it's really bad. Anyway.
And when you get to the Marauders, they just kill you. And you've got to start from Oasis again.
Marauders! And you have to buy the radiation shield, and it's like 50 scrap.
Alright.
Yeah, I know, but I still have like none.
Okay, I think it's alright, because it's a THQ game, and they make 7 out of 10s. And I like the fact...
Again, Finding Nemo on Game Boy. It's
Alright.
great.
I like THQ, I like the fact that this game exists. I enjoyed it. I thought there's not a lot of depth to it. My big problem with the game is the fact that like it sells it in a different way. Like it sells it as it's going to be like you're under the cosh, you've got to fight against this oppressive force. Whereas in reality, to make it fun, you can just blow up whatever. It's almost like you're always more powerful than the EDF. I think most of my major criticisms of the game were like I wish it was other things, but I think that's a bit harsh. Like I wish it took elements from games that came out later, and I wish like I want a modern version of this destructive open world sort of sandbox, but like with things like the mechanics of Metal Gear Solid 5 and like the interactivity, and I don't know. I feel like it's a good game. It has a lot of flaws, and that's why I gave it a 7 out of 10.
I wish there was more Guerrilla in Red Faction.
Yeah, it's more like Red Faction, blow everything up. All right, Tony, what did you give it?
I was going to give it a 10 out of 10, but it just got revoked.
So what did you give
So what are you actually going to give it?
I'm going to give it a 7.
it, Ethan?
I'm going to give it a 6 because unfortunately the narrative of something is too important for me to just sweep aside and forget about.
Okay.
Characters
and
do not care about.
They
They-
don't. Yeah.
They
They only care about missing their dad's funeral.
They only
That's
care
it.
about their nano rifle that they get given in a cutscene. That's the strongest emotional connection in this game.
Right.
Yeah, they're not well.
I gave it an 8 out of 10 because I have fond memories of it basically, and just enjoy playing it. And I know enough about the actual plot from like going elsewhere for
Yeah.
it to actually be good. And
It's got really
entertaining.
interesting
On that,
story.
Yeah, exactly. On that note,
beats
should we
that
talk
it
about
hides.
the Jenkins stuff that we just completely missed out? You remember how there's like an extra thing that
Yeah.
the game didn't do so well, so that you completely missed it if you did the
Well,
missions in
I
a
think
certain order.
the story's quite interesting, but it hides a lot of it away. You've got to sort of search for it, which is a criticism of the game. You can't just go like, why didn't you as the player search and find the interesting parts?
Yeah.
The
Why
actual-
didn't you do all of those trail this guy till he goes to a place and then kill him
All of
missions?
the fucking convoy missions.
All of
Right.
the Captain Gunner
all of the
missions.
fucking car missions, which are bad.
That's very quickly and
Yeah,
like
but for one
in like a
specific
minute
reason.
summarize.
the driving is
all the- I
bad.
think in a minute we should summarize all the memes. Okay,
A minute each.
right.
Should we do an order 66 of memes? Just come up with all 66 that we can.
Right.
think
Okay. So Captain Gunnison, the torture scene that we had a good
The,
laugh about that.
That's what the mission is. You get to hear really bad torture sound
The
effects.
terrible dialogue at the start of the game, the emotional attachment to the brother,
How's mom?
the fact that Tony thought there's no way they'll kill this character off because that would be cheap, and then they did. The death ray, the scene straight after with his license being revoked, where he gets touched and he flies across the map.
The fact that the selective death ray of the
Yeah.
minigun on that.
Yeah.
The bullshit plot twist where Samaya was actually a marauder.
Which, by the way, I still don't know what marauders are after I beat the entire game.
There's scientists that got stranded early on.
Which the game doesn't tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
just
Were you meant to
exist at
find
one
that out
point.
in the game, but they just didn't?
This is
clear it
becoming
up
too much
well
like an
enough?
actual podcast now, not a recap.
There are like random audio files you can find around that suggest that, and I've read the wiki
okay.
pages.
Alright.
I mean, you can hear about all that.
He's read the
in
item
the
descriptions.
hour and a half podcast that we did that got corrupted. Right now, the second one, what was it? Tarantino film with Inglorious Unchained. Okay, Johnny, what did you think about this?
Glorious.
It's a
Django Bastards is the other one.
Yeah, we'll be on man.
I picked it because this is the film of this year that I most wanted to see, and having seen it, there are bits that are good, and it's like held together in a not quite so good framework.
Mhm.
And the worst thing about it is the Inglorious Basterds, of which it is named.
Ethan.
Yeah, Johnny makes a good point. The fact that it's basically a fantastic film of sketches. They are the individual scenes are fantastic. They're thrilling. They're full of suspense. They're full of tension. But the actual string that joins them together is very weak, and it feels as if the film doesn't flow in that good order. Also, towards the end, you have these two separate storylines that converge. And it's annoying because they're
They don't really converge. They just happen at the same time. They have no bearing on each other.
exactly. If one hadn't happened, then the other would still have just basically finished what the other one had done.
Yeah.
And I think that's just poor story writing. I think they could have just been intertwined better.
Sorry.
I feel like Kill Bill Volume 3 had some great scenes, great cinematography, but again, like the fact that overall, just it didn't feel like it flowed as well as it could have. Again, what Ethan said about the fact that your investment in the two separate stories, you want to see them come together. But Tarantino's like non-linear storytelling, and he just doesn't do it. And you're like, okay, I guess I'm surprised by that. But at the end, I'm just kind of disappointed that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Also, the ending drags on.
Yeah,
It's
I think
kind of
it's
excessive.
I think it's too long. It's got brilliant scenes. The actual.
Oh, man.
I'm going to say what we've all said. Brilliant. Like the scenes are so good. Just watch them on YouTube and you think,
Yeah.
yeah, all the best films
Yeah.
ever made. But when
Yeah, I
you
know.
watch them as part of the film, I think it's quite weak. It's
Watch all of Christoph Waltz's moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically
Bang.
just.
That's bingo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Can you imagine
I think
watching
much
this podcast at 2 times speed?
much like Django Unchained, I think it's a very good long film, which is slightly too long and a bit incoherent. And that's why I think both of them are 8 out of 10s. There you go. I gave you a review for Django. Didn't even ask for that.
I think if you just took out, it would be a lot better if you took out all of the headquarters scenes. So if you forget the whole Hitler stuff and you forget the whole Michael Fassbender's
Yeah,
introduction.
you don't need to see it from an
You
artist's
just
point of view.
exactly.
It's like you don't need to see it from
Yeah,
the EDF's
yeah,
point
yeah,
of view in that cutscene. Ethan, what did you give Inglorious Basterds?
I'd give it an 8, I think, because it's not his finest piece of work, but I still think like we've all mentioned, there are some very, very, very good pieces of film in a lot of the scenes. Yeah.
Tony,
I totally forgot what I gave it. I really like some scenes. The fucking.
but what would you give it now? Review it
Faction
now for the
Nazis.
first time.
Uh,
Killer Nazis.
yeah, that scene where they give him the teach. The scene where she's putting on her dress sounds less weird in my head.
Oh yeah, it's the David Bowie
7,
song.
8 out of 10. 7. I go with
7.
7.
Oh, he's dropped.
Oh right. Am I the person who gave it the highest score then?
I'll give it an 8.
Oh nice.
Johnny.
Yeah, so I'm a 7 out of 10 because it's got 8 and 9 out of 10 scenes, but then it's also in like a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10 framework with the Inglorious Bastard moments for me are like 6 or 5 out of 10s. So that sort of rounds to 7 out of 10.
Okay, let's spin the wheel. Oh look, it's who can't remember who it was. Fuck.
this
It's
is
Tony.
Tony.
Tony, what are you gonna pick? Go.
I'm doing Mirror's Edge for the game because, like this podcast, is really fast. You do parkour, you jump, and I like how that sort of way of interacting with the world could be used in more games, like how Destruction could have been used in more games. Anyway, and also the game that is not a game, is a film,
Yeah.
is Ponyo, which is Studio Ghibli film, sort of kids film, really colourful. Hope you will like it.
Right. Hopefully, the next time you're listening to a main podcast, it'll be an hour and 20 minutes longer, and it will be better. But this is better than nothing.
And not at 1.5 times speed.
Yeah, we should definitely speed up in post.
Yeah.
Right.
Slow it down, the post.
Is that it?
Ooh.
We done?
Attendez la crème.
It just got revoked.